Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Romel. I really appreciate you having me.
Before we start your entrepreneur journey, could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
My name is Sukhjeet Singh. I'm an entrepreneur based over here in Leicester. I actually grew up in a place not too far, Everton Village, not too far from here. I grew up, of course, went to school in a local area as well. So I went to a school called Whitehall Primary School. I went to Judge Meadow for secondary school, and that's pretty much, again, I've always lived in Leicester, and it's always had a really soft spot in terms of for myself as well growing up. I think we've got a great community here in Leicester, and there's such a vibrancy in terms of what we do with the community as well. And it's such a great location because nothing's too far either from Leicester as well.
What inspired you to start your business at such a young age?
Sure. So, kind of what it was again, growing up in Everton Village, not too far from here. We've got the village library, so it's Everton Village Library, right? And it's a great library, and there's a ton of books. And I've always been an avid reader. I love reading; it's one of my favourite hobbies. So what would often happen is that growing up, I'd always go to the library and pick up books and read, and it was one of my main forms of entertainment at the time. Growing up in my childhood, so I really enjoyed reading. Now, what happened was that I started to venture into a lot of the business genre, the business genre, the self-help finance genres, economics, and that sort of thing. And what happened was that I was reading a lot of these business and books after school. So when I'd go to school, I learned one thing from the school curriculum, and when I'd go home and actually read books, it'd be something completely different. So it's almost like I had these two contradictions of thoughts. Honestly, I'd be learning one thing in school and they're completely different from home, right? And that was the seed for me. And pretty much the trigger to take action for me was COVID. So COVID had happened, and unfortunately, a family member quite close to me became redundant, and that was a trigger to me, and it really proved, in fact, everything I was learning in books. So everything I was learning about the world and about business, about finances, it just came true within an instant from me, and that was a pivot for me to actually get the business myself. Again, I didn't know how I was going to do it or what I was going to do, but that was really my commitment. And again, kind of fast forwarding a few months from there, you can call it, God's will, you can call it the universe or luck or whatever you may believe in. But I met my first mentor, and he taught me a lot about business. He taught me a lot about entrepreneurship and all the key skills you need to actually run a business in today's age, in today's world. And taking kind of all the knowledge he gave me, I then kind of got started over here in Leicester with the advertising company. We're getting a lot smaller back then, just myself back then, Agency 14. And again, really focusing on increasing business revenue through meta advertising, which is the first business. And again, we started off quite local and serving local clients and local businesses, and it slowly expanded over the years as well. But what sort of happened was I was running the business during the school. So again, I'd have school from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And then from 3 p.m. to onwards, I'd be working on business every single day. And it even been so intense that I'd be taking sales calls at lunchtimes. It was really that intense, especially in sixth form. I had to really push and put a lot of effort into it. But again, it all came worthwhile, of course. Once I finished school, I took it full time, and I've been a full-time entrepreneur since then. And I've been fortunate since that point to then also be invited to speak on stages regarding my journey and also entrepreneurship and our advertising methodology of advertising. And again, I've also been fortunate to be recognised for my efforts, and also now my latest venture is a Young Entrepreneurs Network, which is a network for young entrepreneurs in Leicester to really encourage that spirit of entrepreneurship within the younger generation, to really show you that, the traditional path isn't the only path. There are so many more opportunities and possibilities out there if you choose to take them.
What challenge did you face growing your agency as a young person?
I think there was two big challenges for myself. The first big challenge was, of course, my age, and it really was a really big thing for me, which caused imposter syndrome. So whenever I'd be walking into a client's office, or whenever I'd be speaking to a client or speaking to a prospect, I'd often really face this almost this fear, or this feeling that I was not worthy to be in that position. And it really plagued me for quite some time. That paired with the second factor, which is the second challenge for me, was the challenge of being a spiritual or being religious as a practicing Sikh or a practicing Sikh, and balancing that with being a business person and being an entrepreneur. Because a lot of people, especially in the religious world or religious preachers, they'll say that you can't be focused on money and be spiritual, which is actually not true. So actually in the Sikh philosophy, we call it miri piri, about having both the spiritual aspect and the worldly aspect. And when you look at it, if you don't have any money or you don't have any resources, you can't help anyone. The more resources, the more businesses you have, the more people you can help, whether you're a Sikh or a Muslim, Christian, Hindu, whoever you are, the more resources you have as a religious figure, religious person, the more people you can help. And again, it's a really big thing in Dharam as well. So in Dharam, you call it Lakshmi, of course, right? So that energy of Lakshmi still translates into all of our lives. And the way I've always seen it is the more business I have, the more people I can help through seva, which is what we call self-service, and also helping people through business itself. So those two were really big issues for me earlier on in my journey. And it was the issue that, especially with my age, I felt like I wasn't worthy to be in that position. And I overcame that later on when I aligned myself a lot more with my true self and my true purpose. Because I think what you find, especially with insecurities and challenges which are internal, so both these challenges were not necessarily strategic problems or business problems. They were more internal mindset problems from the heart and from the mind. But once I actually aligned myself internally through the help of mentors as well along the line, that really allowed me to unlock myself further and surpass those mindset issues. And again, when you look at it, if you're not right inside, it doesn't matter how great you are as a business person, you can never be the best you can be. It's just like the saying goes, right? So with and so without. How you appear inside, internally in your mind and in your heart, will appear outside in your business and in your business life.
How does it feel to win Young Business Person of the Year second time?
Again, I've been quite fortunate to be recognised for my efforts in business twice by the SME Business Awards, which is a national business awards company, and they operate in the PR space and the business awards industries, and the regional awards around the country, and of course they've got the national awards as well. And what was the case that I actually had the client last year suggest that I put my name forward. Or actually, I think it was the case in this scenario. I had actually met one of the representatives at a business event. I think it was either in Birmingham or in Leicester. But I met one of them and they just opened that box up for me. And I never really thought of actually going towards an awards route or even going towards a public route. For me, up until I finished school, business was just myself and my clients, and that was all it was. But I've kind of been pushed, I guess, by divinity and by the wider picture to now be more in the public eye and be more of a public person of interest as well. So in that scenario, I then entered those awards last year, which I was fortunate to be recognised and win. And the same again this year as well. And those are probably two of the biggest formally recognised awards which I was blessed with. Of course, there's been smaller ones along the way. But for me, the key thing there is, firstly, I think for myself, it acts as a pat on the back, because it's very rare as business people that we're recognised for our efforts. For example, of course, when you do a degree, you get a degree certificate and you have graduation. But I think it's very rare that as business people, we are also recognised for our efforts in the public eye and public agenda. So I think it makes a lot of difference for our own self, and again, yourself as well, knowing this, right? Being on both ends of the award system, is that it's something nice about bringing the community together, especially in Leicester. It brings people together, and it has that credibility on you as an individual that you actually can do what you say you do, if that makes sense. So I'd say it's been quite a big pivotal part of my journey. It's opened a lot of new doors for me as well, in the way of expanding internationally and in terms of being in London as well and speaking on stage. So I'd say it's been quite a pivotal point for me as well. But I'm of course fortunate for any recognition that I do get.
What does becoming award judge means for your career?
So that was actually an unexpected thing, and I say unexpected from our point of view, but of course everything happens in divine plan. But where was the case that, of course, I'd won last year's awards for Young Business Person of the Year 2025 to 26, and of course the same this year as well. And I was actually reached out to by the Business Awards company earlier this year. So I was actually on my way to Peterborough on the day, but they gave me a quick call and they said, Sukhjeet, are you interested in being an awards judge? And for me, I have no clue about judging at all, or had any experience in that industry yet. So it was really interesting to be on the other side of the table in that sense. So I got hopped on the call with the team, and we got some things going. And for them, the key thing for them, I think, was that they wanted someone who was a bit younger on the panel to actually judge these companies. Because I think another shift I'm seeing, especially since maybe the internet and also now with AI, is that my approach to business as a young person is very different to someone who's 40, 50 or 60, maybe a CEO or an executive in a boardroom. And those two perspectives provide really stark contrasts to the same kind of point in business. So one thing I found is also my perspective on judging was also quite different. And again, not for the better or worse, just a different perspective on the overall judging the companies for different categories. So again, that kind of it was really interesting to see how it all works on the back end as well. And again, a really big fortune and a lot of gratitude to be in that position as well, to actually judge and actually be helping other people on their journey to be recognised as well. And of course, we had the ceremony as well, which is really nice to see how people are being recognised formally. And I think what really makes a difference for me is seeing how my unique perspective as a British-born Sikh and a young person, how I can bring that knowledge to people and actually help them with their business and their worlds and how it impacts them as well. But I'd say it's been a great experience and I've really, really enjoyed it.
How did you expand your agency 14 from Leicester to Toronto?
It was actually never planned. It really wasn't. So I've always lived in Leicester, and Leicester has always had a soft spot in my heart because I think it's such a beautiful location, and I think we really lack a culture of entrepreneurship, especially whether you compare it to London, the UK compared to America or Canada. So for example, when you go to Canada or America, every single person has some sort of business or some sort of, again, I don't like the term, but some sort of side hustle they call it, right? Or whatever they might call it, they've got something on the side as well. Whether that's because of the cost of living over there, or whether that's because of their own spirit as an entrepreneur, it could be a mix of both. But the UK lacks that quite a lot, because I think in the UK our culture is very reserved. We don't do the minimum, but we just want to get on with life and kind of just live life, right? Out there, they're a lot more pushing, they're a lot more driven. So even in the sense of if you're looking to raise investments, even looking at sales or selling, they're a lot more open out there. So honestly, you'll be pushing up the hill to try and raise investments over here. But over there, they want to throw money at you. So all these small things in culture are very different as well. But in my scenario, it was the case that I was fortunate to again be invited to a family wedding in Toronto with a few cousins. And again, you know how Indian weddings are, they're huge, right? So you've got all these different family members and cousins. So it was again great to meet and connect with all my family as well out there. But I had this block or sort of challenge as well last year. So I spoke to one of my mentors out in Peterborough, and he said to me, Sukhjeet, why not look at the scope of actually opening up in Canada? Go there and of course connect with family. But why not look at the scope of opening up then, see if you can expand business out there as well and make it into a business journey as well, just as much as it is a family journey. So whilst I was out there for about 4 weeks. I had to look at all the legal stuff in terms of running a corporation as a foreign citizen. I looked at office space, looked at hiring, and it all just added up. And I think what happens is that when you're following your heart and alignment, when you're actually aligned to your true purpose, things just fall onto your path without you having to push, without you having to struggle, right? Or having to put so much force into it. So I think once we actually listen to our God's gifted heart and our God's gifted abilities and gifts, things just fall into our path naturally, whether that's the business awards judging, whether that's any of the awards, or whether that's expanding into Toronto as well. So I was out there, I had to look at all these business things, and it was funny because my family out there, they were like, you're working so much. For me, I was working probably at 2-3 hours a day, but for them, they saw it as quite a lot, which is quite funny as well from that perspective. So again, I opened up in Toronto last year, and again, whilst we're out there, and whilst now the company's grown to a couple of us in the team as well now, and it's beyond just myself, there's still that soft spot in Leicester for me as well. So whilst I'm between Leicester, London and Toronto, I'm always anchored to Leicester because of the Young Entrepreneurs Network. And this is an initiative which actually had a lot of people request over the last few months to bring a spirit of entrepreneurship in the younger generation in Leicester, of course, as well. And it's coming back to your question regarding the cost of living, etc., and risk taking. In business, if you're not playing offensively, you're going to die out. You cannot be in business playing defensively. If you're going to build a business, do it with your full heart and your full mind, and build a business for tomorrow, not for today. But you've also got to play offensively. You've got to take risks. Of course, there's more risk in you not being in business than there is being in business. So the statistic is, if you were to work a job for, let's say, your entire lifetime, and you were to put all your money into your bank account, your savings account, and you work, let's say, 40 years, by the time you hit retirement, 10% or 10 years of that all those savings will be wiped out just from inflation. So you cannot afford to be living defensively. You can't afford to just rely on the government or blame people or rely on this thing or that thing. You've got to take responsibility for your own life and actually take action towards whatever is in your destiny, if that makes sense. So I saw more risk in not taking an expansion into Canada. I saw more risk in going to university. Right now there's over about 1 million young people out of a job or struggling to get or unemployed, right? Which is a huge figure. So I see more risk in that than going to business as an entrepreneur, as a self-independent entrepreneur, and making my life the way I see it and helping people the best way I can.
What message do you have for young person who want to achieve their dreams?
Well, the first thing I'd say is one thing one of my mentors always has taught me is to firstly start by understanding yourself. So first that comes into your natural personality, who you actually are. So one thing I've seen quite a lot of, especially once it was brought to light in my own knowledge, is that a lot of people, for example, when they're hiring in business, they'll hire people exactly like them, rather than leveraging different people who have different strengths. So ideally, even if you are looking at hiring, you want to hire some other people who are filling in the gaps which you're not strong at and leveraging and delegating that way. So the first thing is about understanding yourself and who you are. For example, your psychometric, etc., which is again all been taught to me by one of my close mentors, Sukhjeet. And that gives you a lot more clarity on who you are as a human being. Because the majority of business or whatever you do starts within, right? Whether you from the heart and from the mind and from your internal, the inner world. So unless your inner world is aligned and correct, no matter how hard you push outside, it's never going to work out. So firstly, I'd be saying, whether that's through religion, for me it was religion, whether that's through meditation or whatever that may be for you, make sure you are connected to yourself and a higher purpose. And that will give you a lot more clarity on who you are and what you actually want. So for example, some people might have a big vision. Some people might just want to kind of have fun. Some people might be a lot more focused on strategy and structures. Some people might be focused on helping other people. So everyone's reason for being in business will always be different, but find what that thing is for you.
Thank you so much for your time.
I really appreciate it. Thank you for having me.